They're often harder than what you've got in school as well, a lot of the questions. Okay, so as I mentioned, there's an examination report produced for every single year, and they are the best for preparing yourself for the exam, learning how to answer questions. They're absolutely the best resource. And it tells you directly what is expected from the state rather than, some differences that might be present in how schools and teachers teach legal studies, but it tells you directly what the expectations are for the state. And this is what you should be following, even if there are some discrepancies to what you do in school. This is how you're assessed. So they're really, really useful. Some of the things they've got mark averages and tips on how to get full marks. So we can see in this example, the question, students could score up to 8 marks on this question. It gives the average for the entire cohort that year that did the exam, 3.3, and it shows you the range. So because this question would be holistically marked, as it's an extended response question, meaning on the quality of the overall response, even if you included all the correct points and enough points, it's also about how strong your arguments and your strengths and weaknesses are, and how much you went into detail, and how selective you were with the strengths and weaknesses that you chose. That's why only 3% of students were awarded the full marks for the question. Okay, as we can see. And you can even see how many students didn't even attempt a question. Obviously, it's always poor practice to leave an extended response question unattempted, because this is 8 out of 80 marks on the examination, so very, very significant. And you can see most students are in this 3 to 4 and 5 mark range. So when you mark yourself as well, you can allocate yourself to sort of predict your study score based on how well you're doing compared to the average. And say if you scored 7 marks, you can see, oh, only 7% of students are in this range. So if you mark yourself consistently for an entire practice exam, and you saw that you were consistently getting the top mark, or almost the top mark consistently, then you could already predict, like, if I went this well on the exam, I would be close to getting a 40 study score, a 40 plus study score for legal, a low 40s, let's say. And the examiner's report also gives you points to bring up in your answers. These are great for the reason that not only if you got stuck on a question and you couldn't think of enough discussion points, you can come up with the idea, but I use these to substantiate my own knowledge and add to my own knowledge. So whenever I read these suggested points, if I found something that I didn't really think of before and I've never used in a response and I like that idea, I used to write it down and add it to my notes and my bank of like ideas for legal studies and answering questions. And high scoring responses from past students. These are so helpful. You can use them pretty much directly to mark yourself by comparing, your response to the exemplar response. But they're also extremely useful for learning how to structure your responses nicely, learning how to get more concise as well, because you're going at a pace on the exam of 1.5 minutes per mark, which isn't easy. That's more than a sentence in some cases to get a mark. So you can see some really good examples of structuring, signposting, use of legal studies terminology, which is also an expectation in the subject, and strong points being brought up. So the best thing to do with these is not only use them to mark yourself, but try to take things from exemplar responses and copy that writing style, because these are the high scorers for that year of the examination, the people that get full marks on the questions. So trying to mimic and elicit the same writing style and the same strength of your points um, is great with having a full, complete example, which they do give us on the examiner's report. It's really, really helpful.